wacha tuanze na story ili happen coast. So on ilikuwa ni jana, kuna msee fulani anaitwa Robert Gituhu, and Robert Gituhu yuko like 27 years old. So jana kuna vile alitry kufanya ile kitu ilifanywa masaid za Pakistan, ilikuwa Pakistan sisi, Tunisia. In other words, he set himself on fire. So Robert Gituhu vile alibaki amejiset on fire alipata 87% burns, and of course he ended up dying. So msee mwenyewe alijimwagia mafuta alafu akalight a matchbox na akajiset on fire. Hii ni kitu moja ilikuwa inafanywa na mamonk, I think mamonk ni wa Tibet. I think ni Tibetan monks that used to do this thing. It's like one of the worst ways to go, and of course for them ilikuwa like some form of protest, but then the one that everyone ended up knowing about ni ile ya msee wa Tunisia. Ule msee wa Tunisia alibaki amejiset on fire. So unapataga ikikam to story na mamonks hao walikuwa wanasema hiyo yao ilikuwa it's more on a spiritual side. So as much as they're fighting for their rights, they also do it as something that's spiritual. So inaitangua you set yourself on fire because you're trying to protect the dharma. And so protect the dharma, and pia in other ways it's like you're protecting your soul, but apart from that they're also trying to fight for the rights za Tibet. Kuna kuwaga na hii story, kuna kuwaga na this whole other story that happens between China and a lot of countries around it, and Tibet inakuwaga one of the countries that ends up suffering from that. So kuna kuwaga nao wase wanajisetigi on fire, and wanahopigi that they'll end up being reincarnated from the flames of death. But mi nikifikiria juu yake nafikiria like that's one of the worst ways to go. Like there are so many ways to go, but damn that, because it had to be slow and gradual, and yeah. So vile nilisikia msee alijiset on fire masai za Mombasa haikunimekia sense, and I think to some degree hiyo yake pia ilikuwa like a mental health issue, because kuna vile alijiset on fire, kuna watu walikuwa nasema amejiset on fire because of the cost of living, but when now the camera went close to him, he was busy talking about the 2022 elections instead of the cost of living. There's a very big difference between the cost of living and the 2022 elections. So yeah, that's what happened. Domse saizi inasemekana alidedi, and all I can say ni rest in peace kwake. I've always talked about Kenya, and the way najuaga Kenya as a country, there are things that you cannot do because they're going to do nothing, and those are things like, even if we were going through zile vitu Tunisia imego through, Kenya is not a country that unzabaki umejisacrifice for in such a manner, because nothing is going to change. Like everything is just going to be a new day for corruption. Hakuna kitu moja itabaki imebadilika tuseme that since ulibaki umejichoma umesaidia chochote. So I know it's a very harsh way ya kuangalia what people do. Like people feel like there's some form of hope in this country, and you can end up making this country like respect human rights and all that, but nah. Like I think what we've gotten so far, we have to be somehow grateful and just know that tumefika like that level where going past it's going to be very hard. Alafu nachiki Victor Maina anasema kuna vile kuna msalimpea lighter. Yeah, nilisikia hiyo story, like kuna msalimpatia lighter, and yeah, Kenya tunakuaga na hiyo like also like that cold hearted nature, ile mtu akijithreatenigi to do something wase waga wako ready. Like ukienda pali uthreaten unataka kuruka, wase watakuwa hapo wakikuambia ati buda baki umeruka. Yeah, so hapo ndio shida iko. So yeah, of course vile alisema anataka lighter, someone gave him a lighter. Will that affect that person's conscience? I don't know. I feel like Kenya kuna a certain level I see like a lot of people wale mbu wanaga kona zero conscience. Au ndio say watakwambia vile hao ni believers and what, but they have zero conscience, because how can you give someone a lighter to light themselves up, even if they wanted to? Just being a decent human being just means no, I'm not going to help you to do that to yourself. If you didn't get a lighter, wenda utafute, but I'm not going to nini. So nilicheki a small part of it where he ended up, he was talking, yeah, and then he was taken to hospital. The probability of surviving something like that is very low, because I even doubt kama Kenyan doctors are going to take you seriously, the Kenyan nurses, because pia that's a whole other debate where you have a very demoralized health sector, so they're not going to take you seriously. So in the process, if you sacrifice yourself, you're just sacrificing yourself for nothing. So yeah, that's like one of the things that I've seen. And I don't know even how I feel about the Tibetan monks wale ufanyaga hizo vitu, of course. But au kitu moja inakuwaga interesting now is mostly when they do that they don't even scream, they just go, yani wanaishia tu. Sasa sijui mseka alikuwa na scream, that's the part that I don't know. Alafu hii pia imeniremind there was an accident that happened, I don't know ile happen wapi, but sijui kama mliona hiyo footage, but ilikuwa ni kama ni Ndai na mathri ziligongana, alafu there was this guy who was like trying to pull himself out of the car that had been involved in the crash. That's another story that I was to follow up on, because I don't know if that was on the Nairobi Naivasha highway ama ilikuwa on this other side. So yeah, alafu Kenya imekuwa na hizi stori za kujichoma pia, zile zimekuwa zikihappen zile but kuskaa kuna moja ile nakumbuka ni of course like back in the days, this was I think was around 2018, kulikuwa na kabuda fulani masaid za nini Kakamega alibakigi amejichoma, and the reason why nakumkaga huo buda ni juu jina yake ilikuwaga Morris Otieno, na Morris Otieno ni jina fulani ilikuwaga kwa Ocha saidi ya kina madha. So yeah, so huo msee alikuwa amekosana na waifu wake, alafu yakaamua kujichoma. So naonaga watu dedijua vitu zingine zile na feel like it's too small, like kukosana na wife ni kitu ya kufanya ujichome buda, like you have to have more to live for than love. Kama ni love ama lazima ukuwe na something more to live for than love, especially love from another person. You have to have love for self. If you don't have love for self, then the world can become a very harsh place, because like no one owes you anything. Ulikuja huku solo na 99 times out of 100 ukituacha utatuacha ukiwa solo, so lazima ukuwe unajipenda enough kutry kujikeep alive. So kuna mse alibakiga amejichoma, ilikuwaga Masai za Kakamega back in the days. So that was a scary story that I've had this week that happened in Kenya, and nothing happened afterwards, because kuna wase walikuwa wanatry kuicompare na the Arab Spring. No, Waarabu wanakuwaga built different ikikam to hizi stories za self sacrifice and all that, wanakuwaga built different, unajua, because they actually believe that wakitoka hapa wataenda to a better place. Christians hatukwagi nayo belief, si ujidanganya, tuko nayo okay, mujiwekaga na nyinyi cause niliraiziwa kama moja yenyu, but najuaga su Christians ujifanyishaga hizi raya jo waga ziko ready kuishi hiyo area ingine, nangoja na mavajo 72 hii yetu jo unaishia, alafu unapata tu the only thing unajipata hiyo side ingine, alafu unaambua oh hi welcome, do you want to have some breakfast? Uko like yes, Kenya was so hard on me. Unaambua okay, here is some milk and here is some honey. Try kuimagine hiyo mixture yote, yani umetoka earth. At least hiyo side ingine unaulizagwa like hey, you are here. So what do you want to have for breakfast? You can there are 72 of them, choose one. Like I want all the 72 of them. Give me some heavenly powers so I can be able to perform with all of them. Then deki yako inapasuka mara 72 na walizana na kila mtu na cheki. So there's that one. What else have I seen this week that was interesting? Of course, kuna history moja ilikuwa ina happen masides za LD. nani history ya kina Mandago, najua history ya Uasin Gishu and the fraud that happened. And I remember like watching this very interesting story. Kuna mse fulani alikuwa anasema vile alienda Kass FM akacomplain, akasema ilikuwa either Kass FM ama Kass TV, one of the two Kasses. Alienda kwa one of those Kass stations, ended up cussing akina Mandago and his deputy and everyone. Akasema vile wamefanya fraud fulani, alafu after atoke huko akadungiwa simu na msee fulani. Msee akamwambia like nachikijo, ulienda hiyo interview, nilibambika sana na vitu libonga juu yake, but sasa naweza taka tuishie pamoja hii place hivi to lodge complaint. Msee akakubali, sawa. So the first thing I learned about this guy is, yes, he was defrauded, and yes, he's not the brightest bulb in the room, because if you're going against powerful people, you should never trust any call that you find, ama any call that you receive, that is. So akapigiwa simu akaambiwa kesho tupatane ndio tuishie place pamoja. Alafu the next day akadungiwa, akaambwa like buda uko wapi? Akasema ndiko hii area. Akaambwa like saa basi kuja hapa petrol station ndio tuingie pamoja tuende. Akafika kwa the petrol station. Alafu vile alifika kwa petrol station, basically he ended up being kidnapped, and after being kidnapped he was whooped and he was asked why alikuwa na haribu jina ya governor and the rest. And I feel like I pity him, the fact that he was defrauded, but other things. If you go against a politician and you receive a strange call, just know it's a setup. Hii mambo mtu anakuambia sijui tushikane tuende nini, unaambiaga mtu hapana, hii mzigo ni yangu peke yangu, hata ning'ang'ane nayo, wewe ng'ang'ana na mzigo yako peke yako. So huyo msee alienda hapa anaclaim alikuwa tortured, akakuwa threatened against going against these guys, and yeah, that's what happened. Alafu still nikifuatilia hii history ya kina Mandago, another interesting thing that I found out was so they are being charged for defrauding ni like 1.1 billion. That's what's been put in court. Alafu the actual documents zile zinaonyesha pesa ilipotea ni like 500 million. So watu wanasema like this is all like they are being prosecuted to just appease the nation and make people feel like something is happening. But now the case most probably will be thrown out on a technicality that they are being charged for much more money than was defrauded. So I don't know how true that is. But yeah, this is Kenya. I will not be surprised that it's all a game. Wase wameamua like since watu ni mafala, wacha tujifanyishe tunafanya kitu, cause Kenya kitu moja unijazigi na hii country ni vile musemaga kuna konga na kitu inaitaga negative ethnicity. So we are so blinded by tribe that as long as one of our tribe steals from us and the tribal kingpin does nothing to that person ends up being sanitized. And as long as that exists, it means that even within the tribes, people don't get the best amongst themselves. They get the worst. And that means hakuna place yote tunaishia. So yes, this could be true, that this whole case is just for show, and what's going to happen is this case is going to be thrown out, and whoever lost money will have lost money. And still sticking with people that lost money, of course, there's been the Uasin Gishu girl, and the Uasin Gishu girl was offered a job. Alikuwa offered a job na nani? Alikuwa offered a job na humse nitonga Olai ni Leidama. Itangwa Leidama, I think. Humse itangwa Leidama ule na Narok senator. And she decided she's not going to betray the cause. So she was like, before I get the job, I have to know 1, 2, 3, because I'm not fighting for myself, I'm fighting for the rest. And that's very commendable, especially coming from a Kenyan. But now the issue has to be, at what point should you be loyal to yourself? Yeah? Because if this money is gone, most probably this money is gone and it's never coming back. And I saw that the president has distanced himself from RC. That's why they were arrested. Pia alisema something will be done for the people who lost their money. I think alisema they can still get their scholarships. I don't know what happened with that. But Udem lazima ajiulize, cause yes, nyinyi wote mliibiwa, but are you rich enough to skip on opportunities? Cause saa hizi hii story ni hot, so since the story is hot, everyone is interested, and this girl is a hero, but Kenyans have a very low concentration span. So in like a few weeks time, everyone will have forgotten that girl and someone else will be trending. Maybe kuna dem atakuwa ameshake rasa, alafu si wote tutakuwa tukiconcentrate na huyo dem ameshake rasa, ama branchira atakuwa ametuka na mtu mwingine, and that's where our focus will be on. So what will happen to this girl? And I'm sure also pia kwa mse kama huo Leidama, like he was offering this because it's the hottest story right now. So he's offering to give her a job because it's going to, make him be in the media as the savior. So yeah, maybe alikuwa nafaa kuchukua hii nini omsaitwangwa Ledama, si Leidama, Ledama Olekina. So yeah, utapata huu Ledama alikuwa na offer hii kitu cause hiyo job, cause that girl is like the hottest topic in the country right now. So when she's not longer the hottest topic, what's going to happen? Will he still be interested in giving her the job? And what does she want? Does she want to still go to Finland? Ama anataka job, anataka at least to get her life on track, because it's going to be a cold day in hell when a rich Kenyan politician ends up paying for his sins. It's happened once, of course. Kulikuwa na ule buda, I think ni former Nairobi mayor, alikuwa naitwa Gakuo. Gakuo alibaki ameishia jela na kakua akiwa jela. Cha nicheki ama mimi nakumbuka vitu zangu. Gakuo mayor, if I'm not wrong, Gakuo alibaki amekua akiwa jela, but it's a very, it's very very rare kucheki mtu amenini na ubuda hata akuwa amefungwa for long, alikuwa amefungwa for 3 years over the 283 million cemetery scandal. Alafu kona jua hii cemetery scandal, of course you know that Gakuo hakuwa peke yake kwa hii story. Kuna majina zingine kubwa kubwa zilikuwa hapo. One of those names ni like a powerful cabinet secretary right now. Sitaki kukua kama Gakuo, so that's why the reason why sitaji huyo msee, but Gakuo alikuwa na hii story ya cemetery scandal. Kenya inakuwaga an interesting country because people will rob your grave and what, and this dude was just given 3 years and he still couldn't just survive the 3 years. And inakuonyesha how much jail inakuwaga scary, that if you wanted to fight corruption and with a few people in jail, you'd find like out of every 10 people may throw in jail, like because they're used to that fancy lifestyle and what, you find at least 3 would die, and in the process watu maybe watakuwa discouraged kuwa as corrupt as they are. And still, of course, talking about corruption, another story that has happened that's corruption related ni story ya kuna this dude who works for Kera. Wacha nicheki. Kera inamaanisha gani? Kenya Rural Authorities. Kera. Kera ni Kerra. Kera. Wacha nicheki. Wagani Kenya? Yes, Kenya Rural Roads Authority. Kenya Rural Roads Authority. So umse alikuwa anapataga salary I think around 50,000 shillings, and in 4 months he was able to deposit 21 million shillings. So of course the Kenyan long arms of justice decided to go for him, and that's courtesy of EACC inakuwaga like a very interesting organization because according to me they pick and choose who to go after. If you are to go after corrupt people, parliament would be basically empty. The Kenyan parliament would be empty, but they always look for people who are not politically protected. So this guy was not politically protected. So his 21 million shillings was frozen. And then he went and got this lawyer, anaitwa Danstan Omari. So let me make sure I've gotten that name right. Danstan, yes. Akapata huyu lawyer anaitwa Danstan Omari. Huyu Danstan Omari inasemekanaga he's a former teacher. So he's a former teacher that decided to be a lawyer, and that's commendable because he went back to school, studied law, and right now he's one of the most known lawyers in Kenya. but this guy has used one of the most bullish, let me just say it because nikisema bullish wazapata mtu ana trading nafikiri nabongajua bullish. No, one of the most bullshit defenses I've ever had. And the bullshit defense is this 21 million is dowry money that this guy got from a donation 950 people, 950 of his friends. So first of all, who do you know that has 950 friends? That's number one. And these 950 friends, how much was each friend giving you? For you to have 21 million, it would mean that the average friend gave you at least 22,000 shillings. So, and mabeste wangapi who have 950 friends give you at least 20, because kuna mtu atasema kuna wale walitoa thao. Yes, ka kuna mtu alitoa thao inamaanisha kuna mtu alitoa 100,000 shillings. This makes no sense. And 950 friends is just too many friends. I don't know anyone who has 950 friends. Yes, I've seen people donate online for a cause and more than 950 people are going to donate for that cause. But to say that it's friends, 950 friends, how? Yeah. Hapo ndio mtu anatoka zile za ovyo za houseway. So yeah, kulikuwa that's another story line nimekuwa nikifuatilia, and it shows sometimes when I look at Kenyan court arguments, I find them to be very, I don't know, like I think the right word to say is retarded. Like they make zero sense. And the fact that adults are involved, and these adults are some of the richest people in Kenya, because one of the things that I came to discover in Kenya is after you're done with the politicians and as rich people, now the other very rich people in Kenya, if you're to get in, it's the top lawyers. The top lawyers are super rich, and sometimes unaangaliaga unajua this one is rich because they can thrive in Kenya. But if they were to study international law and they went to argue, there's nowhere they'd take you. That's why unaona hata when it came to time ya ICC, I think the only lawyer walitumika kutoka hapa Kenya ilikuwa ni Kilukumi na nani, it was Kilukumi and Kigen. That time you didn't see the likes of Supreme Court and what, because Supreme Court ukiwa hapa Kenya, like he's one of the best, najua like kucheza hapa nyumbani, but he's not the sort of person zataka aende akutetee ati kuna kesi majuu alafu umeleta Supreme Court akutetee, unaweza shangaa because kule hata try ameshout kwanza ambiwe speak English alafu abaki amelose his ish hapo. Alafu now it's going to be a downhill for you from that point. Yeah, so yeah, there are those, like lawyers are super rich. There are a lot of billionaire lawyers in this country. I think ilikuwa either early this year ama ilikuwa late last year ma mid last year ndio like kuna hii ilikuwa ina go around. I think it was an invoice ama a letter from the Nairobi County government ilikuwa inasema Donald Kipkorir should be paid 1.3 billion. So yeah, that's how much lawyers make in this country. And I feel like tukiwa chua tukufundishwa tukaambwa like, do you know why you're joining the debate class? It's so that you can be able to debate. And if you can be able to debate, maybe in the future you can be a lawyer, because apparently that's what's supposed to guide you. Like as kids go to debate club so that they can find out like which kids are going to be the best lawyers. Have that lawyer type seed in them. So different things are meant for different stuff. Like for example, creative writing, composition, insha. That's meant to help you pursue a career as an author. Apart from being an author, pursue a career as a screenwriter, like the next Amerix, because Amerix apparently is very good at writing stories. So that's what composition is supposed to help you understand. And of course, the one thing, people know that I love numbers and I love mathematics. So the one lesson that I find every time I see someone say that Iko Nini nilisoma history, muskiaga kuweka mtu ngoto, ni algebra. algebra is that one thing that we use every day. Yes, that's like one of the few things that you'll use every single day. Naenda kununua mayai 3 alafu na mkate mmoja. Je, natumia pesa ngapi? Na unakachapa ka algebra kwa kichwa yako hapo. Alafu una find out. So yes, algebra is one of those things that you use. And now, of course, you have to come and blame the Kenyan teachers, because when Kenyan teachers were teaching people about algebra, ilikuwa only about 3x plus y. You are never told, what do we mean by this 3x plus y? We might mean the 3x is 3 eggs plus the y is bread. So 3 eggs, they cost this. So what are 4 eggs and 2 bread going to cost? Alafu you do the calculations and you find out. But that's another thing. I think I've mentioned it on one of the podcasts. And the interesting thing is people used to fail in mathematics in high school and mathematics in primary school. But in your life, ushaipataga mtu ameenda pahali like an adult of sound mind, ameenda pahali na akachukua the wrong change? Never seen. Everyone knows how to calculate money. So I don't know how we can maybe teach kids and use the money element, because I'm yet to see an adult ikue kwa ma 3 ikue wapi. Even that dude who used to get an E in mathematics akipatiwa fair aende home, na saa hiyo maybe anasomea Kakamega na anafaa kuishia home, na home ni Nairobi, that dude would get his change right and get everything right. But in school the same exact question akiulizwa anabaki ameshindwa kuifanya. So those are the things that, I'd want to know why, like, no one gets their change wrong, but people really struggle with mathematics, people really struggle with such ish. Most chekigi watu wengi wakisema mi nikiwa dhafu haikuwa yangu, dhafu ilikuwa yako buda, cause otherwise ka dhafu ingekuwa yako ingekuwa unachezwa. But sijaionaga mtu akichezwa pesa, watu chezwa vitu mingi. I think maybe vile kwa tunafundishwa mathematics ni wrong, and that's maybe another thing pia inanikumbusha juu ya the Finland scandal, because one thing nilikamkulan juu ya Finland is Finland, I think right now inasemekana ni the number 1 country in mathematics. But apart from being the number 1 country in mathematics, education has not changed. Like ever since education ianze kuwa like people congregate at a place to learn, I think inasemekanaga the roots of education zinakuwaga traced back to Timbuktu hapa Africa. And of course the Timbuktuians ended up teaching that to the Greek. So now school as we know it today is how the Greek, because the Greek of course walikuwa naandika history yao. So school, the way school was taught in Timbuktu back in the medieval ages and the way it was taught in Greece is the exact same way that school is taught right now. This is over 100 years later. We still do the same ish, where kids wake up, they put on uniform. In a lot of countries they put on uniform, then they go to school and they're in school from this time to this time, and then the teacher comes, they're taught English, they are taught mathematics, they are taught 1 2 3 1 2 3. And there are people who say that needs to change, like things have to change. Vitu haziwezi kaa vile zimeka all these years. And now comes Finland actually trying to change that, because saizi inasemekana kids in Finland don't learn the different subjects separately, they learn everything together. So they learn history, mathematics, science. I'd want to know how that works, but yeah, it's a very interesting thing. And then I don't think they are graded sijui till what level, because pia hawataki watoi wanze kufeel like school is a competition, so they're also avoiding that. And I'd want to know what's going on with ikikam to nini, ikikam to your story of Finland, like how they actually do it. Because yes, that's what I've heard, like they teach the different subjects pamoja. So I don't know how true that is, but if you're just joining us right now, ni vile nilisema Mr. Ian kuna vile alikuwa ametravel, baki amerudi saizi jioni, alafu nikaona considering how he struggled last week, him struggling another time was not worth it. So nikaona at least maybe tubaki tumeconnect na yeye next week. So I decided to do this Yeah, and yeah, so I'm ranting alone. I'm not used to ranting alone, and I'm trying to tell you about the few stories that I've been following up on. So I think we've talked about the education side, so maybe it's time to go back and see other things that have happened. So yeah, pia nimesharusha link ya nini kunijoin, nataka at least muni keep company for some time, because yeah, ranting alone like this is a little bit hard for me. And I was saying for watu walitujoin mapema, nilikuwa nasema vile yes, nikiwa on radio I used to do a show solo, but when it comes to the podcasts, I've been always doing podcasts with someone to bounce ideas from, etc. So yeah, I'm finding this to be a little bit strange, but yeah, I'm trying to see. And okay, tukitoka hapo, wacha tuangalie another story that has happened. So another story that has happened ni church ya Pastor Mackenzie na pia Pastor Ezekiel, zote zimekuwa deregistered. And okay, Pastor Mackenzie of course ni the infamous Kitawaramba. So yeye ndio inasemekanaga alistav like part of his congregation to death. Yes, so unajua my views on religion zinajulikanaga. Religion nakwaga so obsessed na death and what happens to you after death. So kuna watu wanaulizaga, why did these people just accept to starve to death? It's because their brain somehow lied to them that they were going to find something better on the other side. And of course, you reach on the other side and most probably you find nothing, because Earth has always existed. It existed before you and it's going to exist after you. And I think that's the saddest reality about life, that we'd all want to feel like we are special. And we always forget that there are over 8 billion people on Earth. And out of these 8 billion, you're just one tiny bit. And this tiny bit, you are very important to the people around you, your family, etc. But to other people, you mean nothing. This is the reason why unaweza kuwa unatoka Ocha uko kwa some super highway, you see a very bad grisly accident, and all you do is you'll grab your phone, you'll film the bodies like they mean nothing, and then post it on Twitter for likes, and you go about your business. Why? Because those people meant nothing to you, but for someone else, that footage is going to haunt them for the rest of their lives, because there was someone who mattered to them. Like, look at another thing. African presidents have this big man syndrome, and wherever they are, they have to roll in these big cars. So wanakuaga wako hapo, unawacheki with their Range Rovers and their Mercedes Benzes, S-Class Benzes wakienda nazo. Then the minute that they go to Britain, they're all stuffed in a small bus, because there they mean nothing. Najua, they're just presidents of poor countries, so they're not respected. They're not like vile wanaweza treatiwa ukienda karibu na gate ya State House. It's basically the same way the African presidents are treated when wakiwa kule nje. Like even an African president right now, we mwenyewe ukienda kupiga picha kwa fence ya nini White House, na yeah, by accident nani pia iko raundi huko anaitwa Ruto na Gachagua, mtatitiwa the same, like no one cares. But wakikuwa hapa, they mean everything. So now look at that on the grand scheme of things, where it's about Earth. In the grand scheme of things, Earth will keep spinning, whether you exist or not. So if you decide to starve yourself to death because of your pastor, too bad for you. And I think I sound like a broken clock. My time nikiambiaga watu you're alone, so I'm not going to go there. But so Pastor Mackenzie has been deregistered. Alafu another one that has been deregistered ni Pastor Ezekiel. Pastor Ezekiel does not believe what's happening to him, according to me, because Pastor Ezekiel at some point used to hang out with akina Dorcas Gachagua. So, and he'd be invited to pray and all that. So now for him to, reach a level where his church is being deregistered, I'm sure he can't believe that. And another thing juu yake ni yeye ndio majuzi, because he's always pulling this bullshit prophecies. So majuzi alikuwa anatrai kusema vile Diamond yuko sijui na nyota gani, so all he can do is he can never get married. Wacha nitry kuangalia story ya Ezekiel na Diamond for some bullshit. Ezekiel Diamond, let me see what he said. He said some bullshit. Okay, apparently there's an Ezekiel Diamond company. Okay, so itabidi niandike Ezekiel Diamond Platinums. So kama uko Masaid za Austin, Texas, kuna Ezekiel Diamond Company. Okay, so Pastor Ezekiel attacks Diamond Platinums. Alafu akasema nini? For using soul ties and witchcraft. So famous Kenyan tele-evangelist has condemned men who impregnate women and then dump them with the children. During his recent sermon, Pastor Ezekiel reflected on the challenges faced by those left to raise the children alone, referencing a famous bongo artist who has made headlines for his relationships. There's a famous bongo artist who habitually gets women pregnant. He has sired several children with various women, and when he loves them, these girls don't care. They think they're the ones he will date. He took one from Kenya and impregnated her, then dumped her. He doesn't have the spirit of marriage. Oh, alisema hana the spirit of marriage. Okay, so of course Diamond has 4 baby mamas. Yeah, does any man have the spirit of marriage? I don't think we have the spirit of marriage. Unajua, I think Chris Rock described it best. Men don't settle, we surrender. So no one has the nini. And for Diamond, I've always like, just said he's Diamond. Iraya, he Diamond. Like he's the biggest artist in East Africa. Mademu mkatia wanaingia kwa inbox zake, so for day moja kujidanganya she's going to be the one to lock this dude down. Alafu for you to know why it's hard for this dude to be locked down, you'd have to go to Mbagala. Ile time ali release Mbagala before he had a single tattoo on his face, and you look at that boy who released Mbagala to the man that exists today, one of the most successful artists ever of all time. And this guy who jazaga stadiums even in countries that don't speak Swahili, countries like even this country inaitwa nini, Ethiopia, haongeagi Swahili, and Diamond goes there na jaza kwa time. I think liona amejaza Gambia. I've not been to Gambia, but I don't think Gambia hauongeaga Swahili. So this dude is doing all that, and then girls are throwing themselves at him, and you expect him to somehow say no. Why? Because of Tanasha Donna or whoever, whatever. No, he's not going to say no. Of course, he's going to hit and quit. And yeah, so I don't think there's any man who has the so-called spirit of marriage. And for Diamond, I think like some men should just be left to be like kuna kuagana hii kitu musemaga kila demu fikiriaga yuko like extra special, and she's the one to change the man. So of course mnakumbukaga the infamous Jay-Z versus Solange kwa Lift, because Solange could not believe like Jay-Z kwa na Beyonce na bado anapepetana nje. How does that work? And yeah, so Diamond ataendelea kupepetana huku nje, has nothing to do with this Pastor Ezekiel dude. Diamond is making his money in a legit way. Pastor Ezekiel is selling you holy water, which is bullshit. So kauko na holy water chini ya kitanda yako, pastor wako alikupatia hiyo holy water na akakudanganya kuna vile itakusaidia kupata job, mi naweza kupatia some very good advice. Chukua hiyo holy water yako and just go to the toilet after you've taken an ish, itumie kupanguza rasa and leave ya rasa yako ikiwa very holy. Otherwise hakuna kitu hiyo holy water inaenda kusaidia na. All these clowns are just con men. Kuna Pastor Ezekiel, Pastor Woor, anyone who tells you they are a prophet or they can perform miracles or all that crap, the clowns, but they're not clowns, they are con men, and they are very good at their job. Because to convince an adult that you as an adult has magical powers, acheki, because mtoi wangu iko 8 na by saizi hata nikimwambiaga juu ya Santa nasemanga Santa is not real, nacheki. So why would you as an adult believe that another adult can talk to God directly and can perform miracles, and it's bullshit. And I know it hurts your feelings because maybe madhako alikuintroduce to some prophet somewhere, and now you expect ish is going to change in your life. No, it's not going to change because of that person. It might change because of luck. Life always has an element of luck. I think this is the one thing that people never acknowledge, that to reach some certain heights in life, you need an element of luck. So yes, I won't take that for granted and claim any, but no prophet can pray for you and pray your problems away. Your problems will still be there the next day. You'll still have to face them. No, if you are truly sick, no church will save you. No amount of prayer will save you if you're truly sick. It's just the reality of life. And it's sad and it's what kama kwanza hata imenikumbusha talking about church and the bullshit. So after hii accident ili happen on one of those roads, I remember going to the comments. Mnaweza pata hii accident either ilikuwa kwa Mpashogram on Instagram ama ilikuwa kwa Nairobi Gossip Club, but I remember kwa the comments kuna mtu alisema alafu mtu aseme God is not real. So God is real because this guy survived the accident. So now the question is, hii time yote watu dedi kwa accident kama vile watu walidedi Londiani, what happened? God was not there. You see, so the God equation inakuwaga a very whatever. I hate that I always end up telling you about it, but I always think one day I'll change one of you to stop looking at life through mythical lenses. There's no one up there. It's only you alone. Usiogope kanta tandiko na lightning. Nikikona tricks hapa ningezima stima saizi mfurahi kule. Oh shit. Hey, miracles, whatever. So back to Pastor Mackenzie, Pastor Ezekiel, they've deregistered these churches. We need to register any more of this. To me, Usamaga, this is a very interesting and more than a very interesting solution to all these pastors. So me, what I'll do is I'd just call them for a meeting, like all of them. And then wafungie kwa room nawambie sasa, since mnaweza heal the sick, I want you to heal Kenya. Kenya is sick. I want you to pray for Kenya so that the Chinese forget our debts. And the minute that the Chinese forget our debts, I'm going to open the door. Nyi wote mwende. Alafu sasa nawafungia tu kwa room. Pastor Ezekiel, Owuor, who else? Pastor Ng'ang'a, because I think Ng'ang'a pia nishaionaga hapo akitreat ugonjwa wa sukari. All this. I think even Bishop Wanjiru at some point was performing miracles. Just get all of them in a room and then they pray for China's debt. You know what's going to happen? Nothing. China will still be expecting its money. So the fact that adults still think these people can cure diseases is just utter stupidity, and it needs to be stopped. And I know it hurts your feelings when I tell you that there's no one up there looking at you, but just assume I'm your great grandfather who never believed in Jesus. And you'll be okay. Because your great grandfather did not believe in Jesus. And most probably, according to you, he went to hell. How did we find ourselves here? We found ourselves here because of the church and the bullshit that happens. Okay, so kuna mtu asharusha superchat na nimeenjoy. Yes, chances za superchat zimeenda back to zero. Okay, wacha ni cheki story gani tena imehappen, then you'll find it interesting. Let me go back to here. So yeah, those churches are being deregistered, and of course for me it does nothing. And yeah, okay, let's turuke kwa football kidogo. So kwa football, of course, Neymar has moved to Saudi Arabia, and nimekuwa nikicheki like a lot of real, and I put real in quotes, football fans are there judging him. And you find that sports work are very interesting because sports is the only like profession where people expect you to prove you're the best. In other professions, no one cares if you are the best and if you are hanging out with the best, as long as you get paid the most. So that's why, for example, let's look at maybe a politician in nishaisikiaga kitu like if you are to convert what the average, I think, Swedish politician gets, if you are to convert it to Kenyan shillings, ukicompare with the economy ya Sweden to economy ya Kenya, ukidu hiyo inakuanga the economy of scales. Ukifanya hivyo, then it would mean that the average politician in Sweden gets around 60,000 Kenyan shillings. Yes, of course they make more than that in euros, but I hope sijawapoteza. So these are very good politicians. They're very good at their work. They're very good at 1, 2, 3 things. Now look at the clowns in Kenya. Very incompetent, very what, and they all make more than $1 million. You'd never hear anyone say that now this Kenyan politician needs to go to Sweden to prove himself that he's the best. No one cares as long as you're making the money. And that's the thing with Neymar. We know Neymar is a great footballer. And of course, akienda Saudi Arabia, he'll never win the Ballon d'Or and all that bullshit. But if in 2 years he's going to make $300 million, and apart from that, bonuses that every time he posts akiandika something ku praise Saudi Arabia anapata $500,000. Hiyo mimi mnanijuaga vile naogopa Saudi Arabia. Mkinipatia hiyo pesa neza mnaweza shtuka jo, naweza kuwa tu pale jo, niko like Saudi Arabia the best country in the world, long live MBS waga Mohammed bin Salam. I'd be kissing Mohammed bin Salam zase yani mpaka wanaweza ni stop aniambia zibuda, when we said every time you post we didn't expect you to do 10 posts per day. Yeah, because naweza kwa ni expect $5 million every minute. So he's been given a ridiculous deal and I think he should take it. Make sure every month ana post 2 posts. Mimi naweza kwa na post 2, namaanisha that's $1 million nikisifu Saudi Arabia, alafu natengeneza ile pesa ingine. So $1 million hiyo in 1 year, that's an extra 12 million. Every time amescore bao atakuwa akipatiwa 90, I think it's 89,000 US dollars. No, every time that the team wins. So the more that team wins, the more money that he makes. So it's just ridiculous. And kutakuwa na like the Europeans with their like a subtle racism who will be there talking ish, but at the end of the day it's about money. Najua, yes, the Messis of this world, yes, tutawakumbuka, yes, tutawatch, but pesa pia. Familia yako 200 years from now, your family won't care about Messi. They'll care about generational wealth. So I actually feel like it would be super selfish if I was to hear that my grandfather could have gone to play in Saudi Arabia in 1960, but akachagua kucheza Europe because alikuwa anacheza with the best. I'm like, that's bullish. Go and make the best money. The rest will sort itself out. Alafu ask yourself, if every good player goes to Saudi Arabia, then that league will be good. Otherwise, are we saying that any football that's played on Arab soil is not good? Because if that's what we are saying, then Messi is not the GOAT because he won the World Cup on Arab soil. So where do we draw the line? And Benzema yuko huko. Cristiano Ronaldo is there. Mahrez is there. Mane is there. Like a bunch of watu akina Mitrovic wanaishia. Neymar tayari iko huko. So why is this not one of the best leagues? It's one of the best leagues right now. We might not like it, but that's it. And they're taking over everything. Washa take over golf. Walichotea Tiger Woods do akarudisha mpaka ile do bibi yake alienda nayo. Alafu pia boxing nacheki. They're taking over boxing. And yeah, that's just it. That's the power of money. And of course, every time I look at Saudi Arabia, nikiangalia the United Arab Emirates, alafu I also look at which other country. I look at Qatar, and then I look at Africa, and I see the bullshit happening in Africa. Congo, that's much richer than these countries. And you know, like it's here in Congo, it reaches a level. Yes, I know the French and the Belgians and the what, they want to destabilize Congo because destabilizing Congo means that they can get the minerals out. But at what point do African leaders stop thinking like tumbili fulani waone like if we have peace we are going to make more money? So yes, tuza blame Lami, but kuna level lingine pia ile lazima to take like personal responsibility. Yes, Walami wanafurahiaga kudestabilize the Congos and the what, and basically destabilizing Africa in general. But this is bullshit. At some point, we have to take responsibility. The Congolese need to sit down and be like, yes, wacha Koffi Olomide kuja, Falipu pakuja, wacha wasichana wa shake matako tukikunywa chai, imba, alafu sasa sawa. wasichana wameacha kushake matako nao. Sasa now let's look at this country. We can all be rich as leaders because our leaders are selfish. So of course, personal interest lazima come first before the nation. We can all end up being richer than these Arabs that are paying akina Neymar this ridiculous money. All we need to do is just stop fighting and then take control of our minerals. Start shipping these things. Talk to Apple directly. Talk to whatever directly and let's do this. And yeah, Africa, Congo inaweza enda pikiwa the ish. Unazonanga sisi wenyewe vile si wagapa tunaongea mbaya batoto ba Congo, tunaweza kuwa tunajipata tuko huko. Pata dem amebleach, unajua ametoka Congo amebambika na hewa. Kuzi unajua maybe amekuja na some, but it's sad that Africa will never reach such heights because leaders wetu, I don't know, like leaders wetu waga ni clowns. Alafu ina remind nearly get into some twiff. If you don't know what twiff is, twiff is Twitter beef. So I got into some Twitter beef with someone and before that wacha niangalie ma comments. Okay. Oh, hii nini yangu ndio inaka imekwama. Okay. Sawa. Wacha niangalie hapa. Sawa, wacha nisalimie watu kadhaa. Kuna Winnie Safi, asante sana for the super chat. Alafu nani tena hapa nilikuwa nimecheki. Winnie Safi, asante for the super chat na Pete A pia asante for the super chat. Kuna nani? Oh, hii ni yangu ya hapa iko naniambia kuna super chat yote kama mmerusha super chat. Asanteni jo, nacheki. Anthony Mwaura, Winnie Safi mara ya pili, alafu ni Mathaline Schellenberg alikuwa. Oh, Raymond Nyaga. Oh, okay. Asanteni jo. Sikuwa nacheki hapa. Kwa hii kompyuta yangu amuonekani, sijui kwa nini. Why the hell aren't you showing anything? Okay. I don't know kwa nini haionyeshi kitu yote. But asanteni. So, alafu pia nimeona kuna mtu hapa amebonga juu ya nini? Kuna mtu hapa amebonga juu ya kwani kitu yangu iko live. It makes sense. We try and reload and see what happens here. Is this live? Okay, iko Brian Okello kwa story ya kublame Walami in Africa na DRC in particular inafailisha kama imeenda sana 1990. Africa kuna shida ya greed na selfishness. Hatutafika huko. Yes. It's nini? It's about that. Like kuna greed and it's short-term greed and it's stupid. That short-term greed ends up making you not see the bigger picture. Like, look at these Arabs. They live in their mansions. They live like the best life. Yeah, they have the best hotels. They have the best what? Because they have oil. Oil is something that inaweza dedishwa na inaweza malizwa na electric cars. That's why everyone fights electric cars. Utasikia hizi ma bullshit za the car does not make that noise. I like when I start my car, it makes a certain noise. Saizi kuna AI inaweza fanya gari yako hata inyambe ukitaka inyambe, ama ikuongeleshe ukitaka. So that's not nini. The reason why we have to keep the oil cars on the road is because the Saudi Arabians need to stay rich. But now you have a country where apparently every single phone, I don't know how true this is, but I always hear it, so I don't know how true it is, but every single phone that we have has a component from Congo. And Congo is just your country. Nishaendaga Congo jo. Masaiza Goma and that country is poor. And apart from being poor, I think they keep right like Americans, but then they drive easy gari zetu. So it's very confusing. Because yes, they keep right, but wanna drive gari za Japan. But your country jo, like the best thing to come out of that country ni Lingala. Bila Lingala, there is nothing like Congo inaweza tuambia. And at some point they have to sit down and ask themselves like for how long can we blame like the white man for this shit? At some point we have to just take responsibility and be like, you know what, we as Africans, we can't always go for the short-term goals. Let's go for the long-term goals. The same thing I always say about like African politicians. When you steal everything and you end up with a population that has no spending power, you have a problem. Because you'll have a very big hotel and no one can afford to live in that hotel. So empowering your people also helps to a certain degree. Iba kidogo, jenga. lakini yetu ya whatever inakuwa hivyo. But yeah, now back to the tweet. As I was saying, I had a tweet with someone on Twitter because this person decided to say that okay, kuna this senator, I think ni senator wapi, kuna huu senator mmoja aliamua kutumia matako ku reason. Ni senator mgani alikuwa anasema we need to have life terms for presidents. Okay, let me try and see which senator was this. Kuna senator aliamua kutumia matako ku reason, and this was in the news yesterday, the day before yesterday. Ilikuwa Laikipia senator. So Laikipia senator John Kinyua proposes significant change in presidential and gubernatorial limits. So the minute I hear anyone talk about scrapping presidential limits, hiyo ni mtu hakumbuki Moi na hakumbuki Kenyatta. Those two people, like the original Jomo Kenyatta, those people caused so much damage because of being in quotes life presidents. So now saizi John Kinyua ame decide like hey, I need to get Ruto's attention, and the only way to do that is so in the process ya hiyo yake akaamua kusema tunanid kuscrap the presidential and whatever limits, and of course to me this is bullshit. No person has the best ideas. Wefanya time yako ishia. So I remember nikapost nikasema if Uhuru can retire at 61, Ruto can retire at 65, and that's simple as that. If Uhuru can retire at 61, Ruto can retire at 65. Alafu msee akaandika zile za no, 2 terms is too short. Yes. Alafu nikamuuliza Buddha, 2 terms hazikuwa too short for Moi when Moi changed the constitution to add himself an extra 2 terms. That was not too short for Moi. 2 terms was not too short for Kibaki. 2 terms was not too short for Uhuru. But now all of a sudden 2 terms is too short for Ruto. Alafu I always feel like Ruto needs to come out and say he does not want to be a life president, because this rumor has always been there that Ruto plan yake ni kuwa life president. And I feel like why would anyone want to be a life president? Just let other people run the country. Kenya ili change kabisa after 2002. A lot of people who are middle class right now and driving cars courtesy of someone called Mwai Kibaki. It might not be direct, but it's because of Mwai Kibaki. Alafu a lot of us kama sisi wale tuko online saa hizi, tuko online because of that government. Hiyo ya kwanza, hiyo ya Mwai, hiyo ndio government ilikuwa like we are going to try and open up every way that people can make money, and that's how we ended up where we are. This guy in 2013 he stepped down, gave to the next guy. The next guy stepped down, and this other guy, present guy, 10 years is enough, man. Like, why do you need more than 10 years? And hii psychophancy ya Kenya, because you like someone, now you think they should run the country forever. Because what's going to happen is, I can assure you, if there is a life president, automatically freedom of expression has to be curtailed. That's the first thing they go for. So all these freedoms that we have, they're going to go, because no president who wants to run forever wants to be criticized in any way. So yes, mi niko anti huu Laikipia anafaa tu kuambiwa nyamazishe matako yake, kuzi anatumia matako ku reason. And no one should run the country forever. We run term yako ishia. Run me history as governors 10 years. You can never give me governorship. Why? Number 1, I have dreadlocks. Number 2, I'm an atheist. But give me 10 years. These two ocha counties. Nairobi mzanishinda juu ya cartels. Itu za ocha. By time tunamaliza, it's fully food independent. Time like hizi mzaniona literally nikipeleka watu benchmarking, because ukiona vile how Netherlands is able to do landless farming. If Netherlands can do landless farming, we have so much land. What can we do with land? Like literally we have land. What can we do? But of course, everyone gets there. They want to drive the best cars, the best wear expensive shoes. Na kunga niki criticize Murkomen for wearing expensive shoes, kuna msalintoleza ovyo. It's because it's bullshit. You don't need expensive shoes. Just wear simple shoes, but do things for your people. It should never be about this bullshit clothes that you wear, Gucci and all that crap. give me some Gucci and I'll sell it, and if I can't sell, if you give me a Gucci t-shirt naweza itumia kupanguza rasa tu kama holy water ya nani, holy water ya Pastor Ezekiel. It's bullshit. Gucci and whatever, it's all bullshit. So yeah, kuna huu mseliamwa anataka to change these presidential limits. I'd want to see the level of psychophancy ya kina Moses Kuria and who else, the Moses Kurias of this world. I'd want to see their level of psychophancy. That are they so selfish? Because right now I think the only thing that would make them also support this is if they had money to make. Are they so selfish that they'd want to take Kenya back to its ages where people are scared, like be like Tanzania where CCM imefanya mpaka marappers wanahepa country, like there are rappers living outside because of CCM, because CCM basically will win every election huko. You have Uganda where they were shooting, they killed so many people. Was it like in the past election? I think ilikuwa 2020 or 2019. They shot so many people. Would you want to go back to that? And nakumbuka Magufuli yeye, of course story pia ilikuwa gani, yeye alikuwa anataka kuwa life president alafu nature ikabaki imetake care of that. Mother yuko saizi haezi kuwa life president huko cause yuko na disadvantage of the fact that she's from Zanzibar. So there's always going to be that disadvantage that as much as Tanzanians support her, they'll always also look at her as an outsider. But who is going to take over from her? That person might want to pull another Magufuli. But usisahau, before Magufuli there was akina Kikwete and who all came in left. Because hata tukiangalia numbers, it's like our work on their 6th president, sisi we are still on our 5th, and we are trying this Ugandan bullish. Of course Uganda I think is maybe on their 7th president, because hey damn, Uganda lakini inakuanga Museveni ukuambiaga, if you want this, go to the bush. Yes. Uganda waga elections inakuwaga tu for fun, like ndio kufurahisha walami alafu story inaishia huko. But yeah, so I had that discussion with someone who decided to say like the most bullish, but tuna need say kubadilika, because what's going to happen is like all these small freedoms that we accumulate, at some point they are going to be very big, and with this, when these freedoms become super big, one day we'll be able to fight corruption. And the minute Kenya corruption imeisha tu hivi, hata usijidanganye, development itakuja at such a fast rate hata tuta believe how fast the development in this country is going to happen. So yeah, so I'll always be against all this psychophancy bullish of like one person anaingia na baki amekufurahisha alafu sasa unataka abaki amerun country forever. Watu watakupatia zile examples za hii country inaitwa nini, Rwanda. Disadvantage is if you talk ish about Kagame, you go missing. Chiki. So is that the sort of country that we want? Just because the country is clean, now we forget about all the bloodshed that happens. It's bullshit. Okay, tukitoka hapo, talking of bullshit that happens in Africa, of course Zimbabwe elections zina come up. Ule msaindangoni Munangaga. Okay, acha niangalie Zimbabwe president. So elections zina come up. These are basically the first elections in quotes after Nania Dedi, after ule mse mwingine. Okay, it's the second elections but the first elections. So umsanitagwa Mnangagwa. Yes, so Mnangagwa, what Mnangagwa has done is Mnangagwa wame arrest 40 opposition members, and this is a week to the elections. So this is what happens when you have life presidents, because of course Mnangagwa learned his trade from Mugabe. Mnangagwa alikuwaga like deputy wa Mugabe. So even when there was that, when they noticed that Mugabe was too sick and there was that coup that happened where they took over, Mnangagwa saw what Mugabe was able to achieve as the life president. Of course he'd want to be a life president. So nothing good comes from life presidency. So that's the other bullshit that's happening hapa Africa. So yeah, vile nilisema, wacha nirushe hiyo link. I think nimerant enough. Wacha nirushe link. Manase Mumbi, asante sana for the super chat. Mathelin Schellenberg anasema power is a drug. Yes, power is a hell of a drug. Yes. Yeah, power is a very powerful drug, but still, as much as power is a powerful drug, we should not encourage people to get high on their own supply and all that bullshit. Like, we have to tell people, like, you have a term, you have this amount of time, use that amount of time to achieve whatever you want to achieve, and then get the fuck out. You give the next person, they come with their bullshit ideas, and even before you know it, yeah, as a country we are developed. But if we start telling people that you can just lie to people that 10 years is not enough and then you'll be good, tutakuwa na shida. Lazima kila mtu ajue 10 years is enough. I remember I was telling him, like, look at America, the fact that most presidents have served for a maximum of 8 years. Of course, kuna ule msee mmoja aliserve for 12 years, ilikuwa ni Roosevelt, but also these people have served for 8 years. And that country remains, as much as we might not like it, a lot of us, because inakuaga pia, I think pia nimenotisigi na internet ni inakuaga it's cool to say you don't like America. Wey, states Joe, spendagi states. Sasa una type kwa ka iPhone kako vile upendi states, ama uko kwa MacBook yako vile upendi states. It's bullshit. So yeah, so we have that where everyone feels like ukisema vile upendi states utakuwa like the cool kid on the block, and it's bullshit. Of course states kuna bullshit zake mingi sana. Number one being the racism, the amount of bullshit that black people go through in that country, of course, ni too much. But still, unapataga kwa nini wasee bado wanaishia huko juu the opportunities also pia ni kibao. Winnie Safi amesema free Madhe Wangara. Hii story ya Madhe Wangara is like one of the stories tumebonga kwa the weekend update na Rapture. So inasemekana they got the wrong woman. But the Kenya police, if they got the wrong woman, and this woman is this drug kingpin, I'm a queen pin, did they get the wrong woman intentionally? That would be the question to ask, because I make sense how they'd get the wrong person after pursuing this person's due for how long. So yeah, there's been that bullshit where inasemekana they got the wrong woman. So I don't know. So let's I don't know, like the only opinion niko nayo ikikam to Madhe Wangara, I think ni vile wasa wanasema there's this innocent one who needs to be released, and then there's the other one. And of course, if they are claiming that they received 13 million, ama they are able to recover 13 million from hizo sacks, if you know the Kenya police, cause vile nilisikia walirecover hiyo dope ya mimi mwenyewe nilihope ningekuwa hapo, cause would have been my opportunity. Nachukua tu gunia yangu naiweka kando, alafu mnaniona kwa press conference. Madhe Wangara nasikia tukisema 13 million anapiga tu nduru kule yuko. Hata yeye mwenyewe atajitan kwa police station, cause mimi ningekuwa part of the police ungesikia we recovered 1.3 million shillings. Alafu hiyo time unaona nimejaza magunia na macoins hapo, tumebebana na macoin tule mashino hizi drugs gari cause zinauzwa na coins. Yeah, so that would be the bullish. Wacha nicheki. Alafu ile story ya kuishia states iliendaje? Peter Mbogwa, hii story ya kuishia states I think tutaipursue next year. Rapture anafaa kuwa anafanya stand up yake this year. So like right now we're still trying to lock the venue. By next week, if we've not received a yes from the venue that we are treating as our number one, we want to visit the number 2 venue and see how that goes. So we have so many things happening this time that na feel like kuishia states. Alafu kuishia states hii time sisi si watu tumezoea. Kasa hizi cheki nimevaa hoodie na si ati kuna baridi. Si ni watu hatuwezi survive hiyo winter whatever you time like. So the best time ya kuishia maybe ni spring next year whatever. Alafu appointment ya visa ya Rapture ilikuwa April. We wanted to push it mbele, tumeamua tu ibaki April. So I think next year ndo tutafikiria juu hiyo story. So yeah. Nachiki Brian Okelo ametujoin hapo, alikuwa ametujoin last week so pia watu wajai tujoin, traini kutujoin. Brian Okelo akisha kamera yako kuko na kamera yako, alafu kuna msa anajita ni lol akasema can I speak on religion. Lol, you can speak on religion as long as usikuwe unataka kujoin because unafikiria wewe ndio the one person who can convert me, because that really annoys me. I always look at it, I'm like, I've been an atheist for over 20 years. When someone thinks that through an internet argument they can make me start believing that virgins gave birth 2000 years ago, we feel kama it's an insult to your intelligence, na my intelligence and everyone else's intelligence. Like, you can never convince me otherwise, the same way I can't convince you that there is no one up there in kwa hewa. So lol, yes, unaweza to join as long as hutrai kuniconvert.